folks, Jonathan here. Done a live stream today and enjoyed it. Talked to a few people and told, explained something I do a lot, or I used to do a lot. And when I say used to, anytime before last year, because last year I didn't do much fishing, but something I really like to do. The thing is in my mind, there's two kinds of fish. There's a flathead catfish, and then there's bait. And if it's too big to use for live bait, then it's cut bait. But so I kind of like fishing for flathead catfish, but there's sort of a reason behind it. My great grandpa, LaVega McClung, and he's listed in the West Virginia state record books as LL McClung. He actually holds the West Virginia state record for the biggest flathead catfish. And one thing about it, a lot of people used to say that he told a lot of fish stories. And he worked his whole life on lock number 5 at Burning Springs, West Virginia. And he was actually a lock master. So he was the one that would, let the boats through, or, raise the water, lower the water, whatever they needed to do. And so he spent most of his life on the river. And so nobody knew the river anymore in that area than him, for sure. And we're talking about the Little Kanawha River in West Virginia. A lot of information on him on the internet, or a lot of the information about the state record. There's not much about him, when it comes to his life or what he done, but especially about, working as a lockmaster. He always told stories about big catfish that he'd seen, and a lot of people didn't believe him. And you hear stories about people going down, at dams and seeing catfish as big as Volkswagens, and I don't believe most of them, because them fish haven't been caught. When they start pulling them up, then I'll start believing it. But anyway, he did tell some fish stories, but the thing about it is evidently his fish stories were real, because I'm going to show you one newspaper article. Now this newspaper article was done by the Parkersburg Sentinel, and this was actually done before he caught the state record. And this fish was 67.5 pounds, and it was 49 inches long, and he was 72 years old when he caught that fish. And I don't know what the record was before that, but I'm assuming that it was somewhere between that and 70 pounds, because the next fish he caught, which was the same year, was actually 70 pounds and was 54 or 52 inches long. And that was the record catfish. Now, he had claimed to have caught an 86 pounder before that. And I don't know what the reasons was of why he didn't turn it in, or what happened with that deal. I don't think there was any lying going on about it, but he did claim that. He caught a lot of fish. For him to catch a 40 or 50 pounder was just a normal day. And but he knew the river, and he knew what to do to catch him. And I've been lucky enough that I've learned a whole lot of stuff and been able to catch some big ones myself. I haven't caught the record, not here in North Carolina. I've tried. I've fished for it. I've caught some big fish. Went one year. The smallest fish I caught was 20 pounds. Don't have a lot of trouble catching big ones. Just haven't caught the right big one yet. And the record that he set was July 13th, 1956 is when he set that record for the 70-pound flathead in West Virginia. And it's kind of weird, because there's two records in West Virginia. There's a weight record and a length record. And he actually has both records, and has kept both records since 1956. And a lot of people have tried to beat the record. And I'm actually in the United States Catfish Association, and on their website they have a forum, and I see it all the time that people that's what they're fishing for. They're doing the same thing that I was doing here in North Carolina, but they're doing it for the West Virginia record. So there's people constantly trying to get that record and trying to get it. And You know, I'm sure one day it'll get broken, but you know, as you get farther south, the fish seem to have a longer growth span. You know, the winters are not as bad down here, so there's a little bit more time for the fish to grow. So the North Carolina record is 78 pounds. Now it was 70 or 71 for a long time, but it's only been a few years that it hit 78. Like I said, I can't say it's what the biggest catfish I've caught, but I've caught some big ones, but none of them enough to upset the record. And I'm going to show you some pictures of mine. Of course, the picture of the state record catfish. Now, the picture of the state record catfish, that was also done by the Parkersburg Sentinel. And that was actually a newspaper that I used to deliver papers for, and when I was 14, 15 years old. And the reporter that done that story on my great-grandpa, he had somebody else stand back from the catfish when he took the picture. And it makes the catfish look as big as this man. Now, the man in that picture is not my grandpa. The man in the first picture, in the first clip was. And so I'm not quite sure who that man that was standing there, but they had him stand back, so when they took the picture, the fish looks as big as him. But you know, the fish was, well, it was still 52 inches long, so you know, that's a big fish. I actually took the camera with me year before last and did some filming and caught some fish and done it on film. And then, you know, when I decided that I would edit the video to put on YouTube, I come to a reality of something that I didn't realize, and that's when I'm fishing, I cuss like a sailor, and I don't know why, and the video wasn't even usable, let's put it that way, because you know, as I was catching the fish, and so that of course will change for the next one. And I don't know, I wasn't thinking about it, so I mean, it wasn't something I was doing on purpose, but I definitely won't do it anymore. And so the next good time I get to go fishing here, I'm going to do some video, and I'm going to show you. I've actually already done the video, but I'm going to show you my boat. I figured it was getting dark on me, so I wanted to do that part of it first. But I fish. I've got an 18-foot aluminum boat. Center console is one I built. I just bought it as an old, pretty ragged boat, and redone it, painted it, put an engine in it, built a T-top. I've got 20 rod holders. I've got, I think, about 18 poles on that boat, all 80-pound test line. I use usually, you know, 2 to 3 ounce sinkers. I use number 8 Gamakatsu hooks, circle hooks, and I prefer to fish in the total darkness. I don't like to have any artificial light if I can keep from it. And I actually set all the poles on freewheel with the bait clicker on. We're going to do some videos on catfishing. I've got to get the engine changed out in my truck, my 2500. It still runs and drives. Oil pressure's low on it. Don't make any noise, anything like that. It's just low, and it's got a cam bearing wiped out, I believe. But some of you may remember I bought a box truck, and I sold enough parts off that box truck to easily pay for the box truck. So I've got a good 6.0 ready to go to put in it, and just have not had any time to do it. It's not been a priority because I drive the 57 International all the time, but that's not a good truck to fill my boat. And you got to be careful about what you take to the river, because some people have come back and their Cadillac converter's been missing, and people like to steal from the dock, you know, where you park at. And where I usually go, it's a wildlife dock, and I go about 5 miles up the river, and on the Cape Fear River actually. And where I'm fishing at is not the best place. Where I think the record's going to be, I can't get to with that boat, and that's why I actually wanted to build a jet boat. And I've got plenty of stuff to do it. I've got other boats. I've got a 14-foot center console John boat, and I've got a 15-foot V-bottom that I thought about putting, you know, aluminum, that I thought about putting a jet drive in. And it's just the rocks and the, you know, shallowness and stuff, you know, getting to. The problem where I fish at, there's a lot of people that limb line there. I'm not into limb lining. I don't mind a person limb lining. Don't bother me a bit. I don't like when people leave their stuff on the river. They make a mess. They leave. They mark using beer cans sometimes and leave them hanging in the trees, and you know, it's just it just becomes a mess, and it kind of bothers me. When I go to the river and I want to go up the river, I don't want to be around that stuff. You know, I enjoy it up there. I really do. I 100% like to fish totally in darkness, and you know, I just prefer not to have any lights on. I'm one of them ones that just like to be quiet. I don't like to make any noise. I sit in the boat and I wait and I listen, and you know, it gives you a lot of time to think about things that, you know, maybe you should be doing instead of fishing. But I usually fish at night, so it's not that big a deal. And you know, I really enjoy it. But you know, one night I was sitting in my 14-foot boat, and I was turned around backwards facing the back of the boat, and I've got rod holders across the back, right, you know, above the engine, and I had a 35 horse on it. And anyway, no moon that night, really dark. I was, you know, just sitting there listening, and you know, every once in a while you hear fish jumping, or you'll hear something on the bank, and if you grab a light and look, you know, it'll be a raccoon, and maybe, you know, a family of raccoons, little babies and stuff, and you know, it's enjoyable to be there, you know, because the animals and stuff, they've got a job to do. You know, that's the thing. That's the difference between people and animals. They've got something to do. They're there, and as long as you're not interfering in what they're doing, you know, I've never had a problem with them. Don't have any problems with them. You know, anything bugging me, bothering me. You know, even the snakes up there, and you know, they've all got things to do, and you know, if people would be a little bit more like them animals, you know. Worry about their family and their home a little bit, and that's it. But anyway, I was sitting there one night in total darkness, rods right in front of me, and I heard a noise, and it was kind of weird because you know, it was something I hadn't heard, but it was coming through the air. It wasn't coming through the water. And an egret, which was a pretty good sized bird, landed in front of my face on my rod holder, and evidently because I had it so dark, he didn't see me, or may have seen me and didn't. I wasn't moving, so didn't know. But when he landed on the rod holder, he decided to beat me with his wings. And of course, the first thing I did was grab my hat and go to fighting back. And I believe I screamed like a little girl. I don't know if I don't think, you know, up there nobody heard me, but you know, it was an attack that I wasn't ready for. And anyway, it flew away and got up in the tree and just sat there and watched me for another hour after that. And but you know, things like that you just sit back and laugh at. You know, that's just a story I can tell. That's not, you know, anything bad that happened. And but I really enjoy doing it. I think you would enjoy the videos as long as I don't you know, go to cussing at them, and I'm not sure why I do that. I've caught some nice fish. You know, very, very seldom do I ever get more than one on the line at the same time, you know, even though I've got a lot of poles out. And I've probably had up to, there's probably times I got 12 or 14 out. And, you know, that's with two people. You know, there'll be somebody else there with me. I like taking people fishing. I took a buddy of mine, actually a boy that I sort of raised, I guess you could say. It was one of my son's friends that, you know, his dad wasn't around, and I took him fishing. I'm going to show you a picture of him holding his fish. He's tickled about that. I took him fishing the night that he was to leave to go to Germany. He joined the military, and he went to basic training. He took care of all that, and everything he needed to do. And you know, I was proud of him. And the night before, or the night of, time for him to go to the airport, he wanted me to take him fishing, so we went fishing. And you'll see a picture there of him. And he's, this has been a few years back, but he's still in Germany, and I think he's been in the military 8 or 9 years now, and turned out to be a really good boy. And you know, it's amazing that just because a kid don't have a father at home, and you know, they could have been taken in a bad direction really easy, especially in his situation. But you know, they do right, and you know, it makes you proud that you know, you can help out anyway. His name's Russell. I call him Gristle. The reason I call him Gristle is he used to do a lot of walking up and down the roads, you know, walking to here or walking to work or whatever he had to do. He didn't mind walking to do it, and it would be 40 degrees out and he'd be walking with no coat on, and I said, well, you as tough as Gristle, so I started calling him Gristle. But yeah, very proud of him. Glad that he you know, turned out like he did. And but anyway, I'll quit boring you with stuff. But hopefully I can get my truck finished up and we can do some fishing this year. And I enjoy showing people stuff, and you know, if it's something somebody's interested in, I think you'll get some enjoyment out of it. But I've done it enough to learn, you know, the right ways to do it. You know, I think I can show somebody something a little bit anyway, and maybe they can go catch themselves some big ones. But and hopefully one of these days I'll set that state record. And my grandpa was 72. My great grandpa, he was 72 when he caught it, and when he caught the state record, and he passed away the next year. But you know, unbelievable. I'm sure he never thought that his record would hold that long, and it's really amazing. And you know, that's 60 years. It's always been a sort of a thing in the family. It's something we've always enjoyed doing. But I will take you along, and hopefully you'll enjoy it, and hopefully I won't do any cussing, and because I didn't even realize I was doing that, and I didn't even save them videos. I just deleted them away, and wasn't too proud of myself after that. But I appreciate everybody watching, and until next time, bye. Okay folks, here's my boat. 18 foot, 1965 Lone Star, made in Texas. And even though it looks like wood, the way they built it, it's all aluminum. And my understanding is this is 18 foot long, but it's my understanding that this whole piece was done in one big press. And I really always wanted to see the press they used to do that. But I bought this boat pretty cheap with the trailer. It's got a magic tilt. You know, the trailer came with title, boat came with title, so you're kind of lucky on that. You know, here in North Carolina, used to be you had to have registrations, now you got to have titles. So anyway, I repainted the boat, and I painted that stuff on the front just for the heck of it. I just like the look of that. That's sort of like the PT boat, the old ones. And so anyway, let me show you the inside. Now this thing originally, if anybody ever watched the Swamp Loggers with Shelby, this thing used to have a top that started about right here and came up at an angle. And this one might have had the cover over top. But anyway, the steering wheel was on the right here, and the windshield was right here, and you actually sit right up here. So I changed everything around, and you know, center console, and there where it says ammunition. I'm going to go to the other side. Maybe the sun won't affect us so much here. Yeah, a little better. Anyway, where it says ammunition, that's actually my live well that I keep all my bait in. And what I do is I catch brim, and I'm sure I'm going to explain that to everybody. But brim here is sunfish, bluegill, shell crackers, anything all put together. Some people call them perch in some places, but down here they call them brim. And anyway, that's what I catch, usually 4-inch or larger, you know, 6-7 inch. Catfish will eat big fish. You can see I've got a Of course, my grandson's been in here playing too, and you can see all the pine straw getting piled in it because this thing's been sitting for, I don't think I even took it out last year, but anyway, the floor comes up and had some area there. I made rod holders for it. I set up a jig to make these. I bent them all. This is 3/8 solid bar, and I bent them all cold. I didn't heat anything, and I just, you know, made a jig that I could bend this all at once. I just bent around a piece of pipe, you know, around a pin that I had here down. I had another pin here, and bent it up and around it. So I did every one of them exactly the same. I got 20 rod holders on this boat. And a lot of times I usually have at least 8 rods out when I fish. North Carolina don't have a law like some states about how many rods you use. And, you know, I usually probably go overboard, but I mean, I'll put out as many as I can. I feel like I, you know, need to, or depends the area, of course. But and what I use is old, as you can see, I use old pins. I use old Ocean City reels. I got some Abu Garcias, some big pins, and that's a pin. And this is just old reels that I've picked up here and there, garage sales, anywhere like that. And I'm getting ready to take these all out, oil them up. This is probably not the best place to keep them, but I mean, it does stay, I'm under a cover here, so it stays dry. But I'm getting ready to redo the line on all these because they've been sitting quite a while. Here's what I use as a circle hook, and these are, I think, Gamakatsu number 8, I believe. Can't remember, but anyway, I think that's what they are. That's what I use for a hook, and the way that I set up at dark, so I can't see the end of the pole anyway, so I go off the bait click, and I'm looking at this boat and showing you this before I've done the video because I'm afraid it's going to get dark on me, but I'm sure I've already explained everything of how I do this, but anyway. But yeah, I like my boat. I've got some nice lights on it, got the LEDs up top, and got them facing backwards and forwards. And I want to do some videos, and hopefully this year I'll be able to get out. Now I've just got a 70 horse on this. When I bought this boat, it had a 140 on it, and I didn't even try to get it running or anything. For where I'm fishing at in the river I'm fishing, 140 is just way more than I needed. Plus, it wouldn't tilt. In other words, it would tilt with the electric tilt. But the problem is if I hit something and I hit something hard, it was solid. So I wanted something that I could unpin to where if I hit something, it'll flip the engine up. And when you're in the river and in the middle of the night, and you're cruising through the river, you're going to hit stuff. You're going to hit stumps, floating logs, and stuff like that. And I wanted to set it up to where I didn't have to worry about it. I've got 2 bilge pumps in this thing. I've got enough bilge that you can take out the drain plug, and I can out bilge the water coming in. I've got one comes out here from the back side, and I've got one that is here that comes out that is actually in the center, in the lowest spot in the center of the boat. And it's got a really nice V-bottom, and this boat handles like a Porsche in the water. When you turn this boat, it turns. There's no sliding. You can lean this boat over enough that you can just reach down and just touch the water on the at the side of the boat. And it's fun to drive. It handles so good. I was so impressed with it. One of the few things that I would never really care to sell. I enjoy it too much. But anyway. All right. But that's my boat, and hopefully we'll get her back going.